Morning, everybody. How you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm Sean Butler. Very bright here. Bugsy Malone, I think, is over my shoulder. I'm sure you can see her in a minute. How are you? Hope you're all happy and healthy, doing the things you love. Please do me a favour, guys, like you always do. Smash the like button for me on the video. Hit the subscribe on the channel if you haven't already. And hit the notification bell. And drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topic. And it's another transfer news, views and clues that's featuring a player that plays in a position that doesn't really make sense to me. But it didn't make sense to me. I've been saying it all week. I don't understand why we're getting linked with all these right backs when I don't think we need it. But the player that we were linked with today and that's going around, suddenly the penny dropped. And I think I now understand why we are potentially looking for certain players in positions, even if they are not in the areas of the pitch that we need the best growth in. Hi guys, morning. And the player is Arnau Martinez from Girona. Right back, 20 years old. I wouldn't say he's pulling up trees. He's a very talented player. Suddenly, I'm looking at these reports and seeing Bayern Munich are interested in him. Real Madrid are interested in him. Manchester United, Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham, the Milan clubs. All of the who's who of European football want a slice of this guy. And I'll be honest, like I've watched Girona, or at least their highlight reels, and I've always thought him to be, an interesting player. Defensively, he's very adept in my opinion. And I'm going to put his stats up on the screen, right? But I want you to bear in mind that the FB Refs stats are comparing him to all fullbacks in the top 5 leagues. SofaScore have their own algorithm that gives him an average rating over this season of like 6.8 or something. So not setting the world alight. But SofaScore's algorithm, I've always had a problem with it because it measures the data, but the weightings it puts into certain things and not others have outcomes that don't really make sense when you're looking at it and comparing it to what you see. For example, Mickey van der Ven, I believe, according to SofaScore, is in the bottom 10 percentile of players that have played for Tottenham on the average rating this season, which is crazy, right? Because he's been one of our best players. But because of the way that the weightings of certain measurements or certain criteria is put into the algorithm, his ensemble of statistics has pushed him down the pecking order. And so I take it with a bit of a pinch of salt. However, I think that the reason why this guy is so desirable to all of the biggest clubs is maybe not necessarily because of his performances right now, but it's in no small part because of the new trend in football that currently about 10% of teams employ, but that is something that in all likelihood is going to be adopted by far higher frequency of teams over the coming months and years. And so the demand for a player who suits the future most commonly found formation is going to grow, and therefore you might even want to buy players for positions that you're okay in right now, because if they slightly improve you on what you already have, then there's some logic to it. But on top of that, if you know that the pool of interested parties in a year or two's time is going to be far bigger, then you know you've got an appreciating asset, because demand and supply. You've got a player that's ahead of his curve, ahead of the curve in understanding the requirements of that particular role. And there's not that many of them around, and you've got a demand that's growing. And that, I think, is this story between the value proposition for Arnau Martinez. He plays in a Girona system. Girona is owned by the City Football Group. City Football Group own 44% of Girona. The other half, give or take, is owned by Girona FC, the chair of whom is Per Guardiola, brother of Pep Guardiola, who is the manager of Manchester City. And of course, City Football Group in their multi-club ownership model, one of the benefits is that they can encourage all participants in the model to learn the similar style, the similar system, to play the same style of football, the ethos. And of course you can then have economies of scale and efficiencies by taking the learnings of certain tactical nuances from one group and share them across the entire group. And Girona play with an inverted fullback. They play with two inverted fullbacks at times, but they either play with two centre backs and the left fullback sitting back and the right fullback getting forward and helping out either the six, or moving into to join the front system, the front 4 or 5, or they'll do it on the other way round. And Arnau Martinez has only ever learnt that system, and he's brilliant at it. He's not a brilliant fullback yet, but he's got a great cross on him. He's got a great range of passing. He's a brilliant support player to offer that single pivot, the 6, and turn it into a double pivot to create the triangles in the passing systems. And moreover, the best part about his game is that I mentioned earlier, when you look at the FB refs and you look at his stats compared to traditional fullbacks, then when you look at his defensive stats, at getting back, tackles, interceptions, clearances, all that stuff, that is in no small part held back or filtered by the fact that a lot of the time he's going to be more central, more narrow, and you can see that by his heat map. But the fact that he can get back into his defensive structure at right back when they lose the ball and put in the sorts of tackles that he does with such consummate ease, then you see his defensive stats are very good anyway, but they should be even more appreciated because of the reality that he's being compared to fullbacks who, for the most part, the highest percentage of fullbacks play traditional fullback models. And so I think that is now where I think Tottenham maybe are going with some of this interest, if it's true that we're interested in him, if we are part of the teams that are interested in this player, because this player isn't a spectacular player just yet, but when you see all of the big names interested, and the most common theme amongst most of those teams that I've mentioned are that they are all adopting inverted fullback systems, and even the ones that don't, maybe they are of the same thought process that in 2 or 3 years' time 50% more teams will be playing with an inverted fullback than going out and acquiring the best young talent that already have a grasp of that position. Makes sense not only from a playing style and a team benefit perspective, but from a business perspective. So it will be interesting to see if Tottenham are going out now and looking at not just players that we need for the here and now, and not just the best talent for the future anyway, like we're doing with people like Ash Phillips or Voskovic or Beliz, but whether we are also increasingly linked with players for positions that on paper we don't need help in right now, but because they are players who understand the 4-3-3 with inverted fullbacks, either with a double invert or a single invert. Be very fascinating to see how that merges. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think that's probably what we're thinking about here, or am I just over-analysing it and coming out with absolute waffle? Because both scenarios are entirely possible and probable. Anyway, that's about it from me for now. I just wanted to let you know that I will be doing a multi-club ownership. I've been talking about it for ages. The problem is that it's such a fascinating and deep concept to have to break down, that if you were to do the entire history of MCOs, the pros, the cons, the features, the best case scenarios, like the best examples, the worst examples, the good, the bad and the ugly, the future, the rules, if you were to include all of that, Bugsy, come on, if you were to include all of that in a video, it would be 10 hours worth of content edited down to about an hour. I'm not sure if anyone wants to spend an hour listening to all of that in one go, so I might break it down into 3, like a micro series, a mini series of multi-club ownership, and the first one of those will probably come out in the next couple of days with the basics of it, the kind of pros and the cons, so that everyone can understand, because I do believe that that is where Tottenham are going to eventually head, back to where we started. ENIC were one of the first groups that owned multiple clubs. Morning, guys. Back in the 90s, before the rules were changed to prevent that from happening. And the rules now, the line has been removed back to be more favourable to teams that are doing it now, which probably infuriates Daniel Levy and ENIC. How far ahead could we be had those previous relationships with the likes of Basel and Prague and Rangers been allowed to continue to develop? You have to give credit where it's due to Daniel Levy. He's ahead of the curve on a lot of the ideas that are now being implemented by bigger teams, more established teams around the world. Anyway, that will be coming out today, tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday, and then I'm going to try my best to do a live stream today to talk about the Fulham game, because it's going to be interesting. Does Brian Hill get some minutes? Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, massive game for him. Is he going to be motivated to put his body on the line, looking for a move in January? Huge game. I think he's professional to the end, and I think he'll do his best to put in the great shift. It's going to be a tough game against Polinia. Maddison's going to need to be on his absolute tip-top form. And as I say, I think I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable about the forward options. Now we've got Brennan Johnson back and Brian Hill. I think Brian Hill's really going to suit this system. He has the ability to pop down the line or to cut inside. And when you've got Destiny Udogie behind him that can also do similar things, I think it'll be a fantastic threat to have. So interested to see what you guys think about that, but we'll talk about that hopefully on a live stream, maybe about 4 o'clock, guys. Like, subscribe and comment in the meantime, and I'll see you, if not in the comments here, then either at 4 o'clock or at 7 o'clock tonight. We're doing Tottenham Takes episode 3 over on Henry Wright's channel with Dave and Deji and George. Cheers guys, have a wonderful day. I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.